All right, let's talk about something fascinating. When a disaster like a bushfire hits, can the digital trail we all leave on social media actually help save lives? Today, we're going to decode how researchers are digging through millions of posts to understand one of the most chaotic things you can imagine, a mass evacuation. So, picture it. You get that alert on your phone. A bushfire is heading your way. Right there, in that moment, you have to make a choice. Leave now, stay and defend, or wait and see. That single decision is maybe the most critical one you'll ever make. And for emergency planners, trying to predict what thousands of people will do at the same time is a massive, massive challenge. You know, for the longest time, the only way to figure out why people did what they did during a fire was to go ask them, after it was all over. But that's slow, you don't reach everyone, and memories get fuzzy. It created this huge blind spot. But now, we've got this new fire hose of information, gushing out in real time, giving us a raw, unfiltered look at what's happening as the crisis unfolds.
So let's really dig into the problem that these planners are facing. It's what we can call the evacuation blind spot.
Okay, check this out. The old way, doing surveys, happens way after the fact. It's looking in the rearview mirror. Plus, it's expensive, so you only get to talk to a small slice of people. Social media is the polar opposite. It's happening right now, during the event. The scale is just enormous, and it's totally unfiltered. People are just posting. It's a total game changer for sure, but it also comes with its own set of huge problems.
Which brings us right here, tapping the digital fire hose, because that's honestly the best way to describe it. It's this chaotic, overwhelming flood of information, and you've got to find a way to drink from it.
And here's why it's so hard. You can't just, read all the tweets. For every single useful post about an actual evacuation, you've got thousands of other posts that are just noise. You've got slang, inside jokes, emojis. A computer has no idea what that means. Plus, the data is incomplete, it's biased towards people with good internet, and it's scattered all over the place. So how do you turn this absolute mess into something you can actually use?
Well, the answer is you need a system. You need a process designed specifically for finding those valuable signals buried deep inside all that noise.
Researchers basically use this three-stage pipeline. First, they just collect everything. They suck up a massive amount of data using keywords like bushfire or event-specific hashtags. Then, and this is the most important part, they clean it. They throw out all the junk. And finally, once they have the good stuff, they get it organized so it can actually start answering questions.
Let's really zero in on that cleaning step because it's crucial. Think of it like this. You're training a computer program, a classifier, to be a bouncer at a club. And its only job is to look at every single post and decide, is this person talking about a real-life evacuation? Or are they just talking about a disaster movie they saw? That's how you solve that signal-to-noise problem.
Right, so once the data is clean, the last step is to give it some structure. Researchers sort every relevant post into these key buckets. Which fire was it? What did the person do? When and where did it happen? And how did they get there? This is how you turn all that messy, raw text into a database that you can actually analyze.
And that analysis, that's the whole payoff. This is where we can finally start to decode the decisions people make when they're in the middle of a crisis. So let's start with the most basic question of all. Do people actually leave? In the world of traffic planning, they call this trip generation. The social media data can help us figure out, what percentage of people hit the road, who stays behind to defend their homes, and how many people take that super risky wait-and-see approach.
Okay, so for all the people who do decide to leave, the next obvious question is, where are they all going? Are they all heading to the official public shelters that you see on the news?
Well, the data says, not really. This chart from a wildfire in San Diego is incredibly revealing. I mean, just look at that. Over 70% of people went to a relative's or a friend's house, and public shelters? Less than 5%. That is an absolutely critical insight if you're a planner trying to figure out where to send help.
So we have a pretty good idea of where they're going. The next piece of this puzzle is how they're getting there. What's their mode of transport?
This number just blows my mind. In one study of a bushfire, 92% of the people evacuating used their own private cars. The takeaway here is huge. A bushfire evacuation isn't just a fire emergency, it's a sudden, massive traffic emergency. And if you don't plan for that gridlock, you're in big trouble.
And that leads us perfectly to the final question in the model. With pretty much everyone in their own cars, which roads are they choosing to take to get out?
And this is where it gets really interesting, because this is all about human psychology. The data shows that when we're under extreme stress, we don't always act like our GPS. We don't necessarily pick the absolute fastest or shortest route. A lot of the time, we pick the route we know, the one that feels familiar, the one that feels safer, even if it's actually longer. That's a kind of insight you just can't get from looking at a map.
So let's put it all together. What does all this mean for the future? Well, if we can understand these behaviors, we can start to build much smarter plans and hopefully create much safer futures for everyone.
And the real-world applications here are powerful. You can make those emergency computer models way more realistic. You can help officials write emergency alerts that actually connect with how people behave, not how we wish they'd behave. And most importantly, you can get resources like police for traffic control or supplies for shelters to where they're actually needed, based on real data, not just guesswork.
But look, this isn't some kind of magic solution just yet. There are still some really big problems to solve. How do you stop dangerous rumors and misinformation from spreading like wildfire during a crisis? What do you do about all the people, like the elderly or folks in remote areas, who aren't on social media? And how do you get even better at teaching a machine to understand human nuance, like sarcasm or a real sense of urgency? These are the questions researchers are working on right now.
Which really leaves us with one final big question. We've seen the incredible potential here. This technology can help us make sense of chaos and plan for safety in ways we never could before. But it's all built on our data, on our digital footprints. So the question for all of us is, if it could help draw map to safety for everyone, how much of your digital self would you be willing to share? Thanks for tuning in.